Okay, so there are many, to be optimistic, there are many transboundary projects globally that are successful. Countries are working together in order to optimize the uses and opportunities and maximize their opportunities from transboundary water rivers. And we have many examples of these, but I'm very happy to have today Péter KOVÁCS. He is joining us from Hungary. He is the head of Department River Basin Management and Water Protection of the Ministry of Interior of Hungary. He is also graduated as a civil engineer, started his professional career at the Regional Water Management Directorate Environmental Authority as a staff engineer. He started to work for the ministers in 1997 in different positions responsible for implementation of the Water Framework Directive of the European Union and water quality management. He is a former State Secretary for Water. He is also, for the time being, head of delegation to the ICPDR, EU Water Directorate, Vice Chair of UNESA Water Convention, governmental plenary for 6 transboundary water commission, and chair for several bilateral working groups. Péter, you have the floor.
I would like to outline several of the options for transboundary cooperation. And my short presentation will include for bilateral cooperation with the neighboring countries, also the cooperation in the frame of the Danube Convention, and also a few words about the UNEC Water Convention, which might be very interesting for us. As you see, the location of Hungary is very unique. We are entirely in the river basin of the Danube. And as you see, we are a big transit country. 24 rivers entering into the country, but only 3 rivers is leaving us. And I can see, and I can say as well, that 95% of the surface water is coming from abroad, from the neighboring countries. You see on the slide 4 major problems. Our major problems are the lack of water or the abundance of the water. I just want to draw your attention to the photo of the 2 bridges. It was taken in the same year, in just a difference in 1 month or 2 months. So you see what are the real problems for us. So for us, the international cooperation is not only the possibility, but also a need to do. So we have a bilateral cooperation with all neighboring countries. We have also taken part in the multilateral cooperation, including the European level as a member state. And we also like to take, let's say, a leading role in the global water cooperation as well. Let's start with the transboundary river commissions. So we have 7 neighbors, 6 is upstream and 1 is downstream. And the form of cooperation is quite different. It's very historical also. But we are already identified many subject of the transboundary cooperation. It started from flood management, with river engineering, with hydrological forecast, data exchange, and later on it joined with water quality problems as well. And now we are in the phase of the integrated river basin management also with our neighbors. A few words about the Danube River Protection Convention, which is called ICPDR as well, using the English abbreviation. So the ICPDR is coordinating the basin-wide implementation of the EU Water Framework Directive and the EU Flood Directive as well. In the ICPDR, you see the coordination mechanism is quite complicated, and it's also the result of that we have 19 countries sharing the watershed, and 14 countries is the signatory of the ICPDR, the River Basin Protection Agreement, and the rest of the countries who are obtaining less than 2,000 square kilometers of territory is just coordinating through bilateral coordination with the other countries. You see the structure of the ICPDR. So the main decision-making body is the delegation of the contracting parties, and the work of the ICPDR is supported by the Secretariat and several of the expert groups and task groups. And I like to highlight one very important feature of the ICPDR cooperation. We have a very long tradition of the stakeholder involvement. So we have more than 20, 30 observers also taking part of the work of the ICPDR. You can see that the Danube Basin is quite unique. It's connecting most richest part of Europe with the most poorest part of Europe. It's very diverse, economically, culturally, and also related with the water management features. But I think it's a very successful coordination. And a few words about the UNEC Water Convention. It's a global framework based on cooperation principles. It has also the institutional framework, and it's also have a lot of possibility to support projects and also the capacity building of the countries. You see the major body is the meeting of the parties, and we have several working groups on integrated water resource management, working group on monitoring, and also since many years we already operating the task force on water and climate, and also a task force of water and food and energy and ecosystem nexus. I think it's also very valuable, and since 2016, the Water Convention became a global instrument. All UN member states can accede to the convention since 1st of March of 2016, and now we have already 44 parties. 3 parties joined after the mentioned date, so we have new members from Africa, 3 countries, Chad, Senegal, and Ghana acceded after the global opening. And I also like to mention the other global instrument, the 1997 United Nations Convention on the Law on Non-Navigational Uses of International Watercourses, or very shortly the Watercourse Convention. And I think both conventions are complementary, and we are encouraging the countries to accede to both of them. You see on the map, the Water Convention has already 44 members, and we have a growing interest from different parts of the world. And I can tell you that during the meetings of the UNEC Water Convention, we have approximately 110 countries participating. You see the program of work for this and the next year as well, and we are working on the next 3 annual work program, because the next meeting of the parties will be taken next year in September in Tallinn, Estonia. And as you see, we are working on a very relevant topics which might be interesting for all countries. And I also want to mention some of the key activity which is conducted under the Water Convention. One is the handbook on water allocation in the transboundary context. I have a pleasure to chair this group who is elaborating the handbook. You see on the timeline, and next week we will have also a meeting of the expert group who is elaborating the subject, the handbook itself. The other really important work, the checklist of the development of legal frameworks for transboundary water cooperation. We also elaborating a checklist which might be help for countries to establish working relationship with their neighbors and with the other countries sharing the same watershed. Yes, and I also want to highlight one feature of the Water Convention. We have a responsibility on the SDG 6.5.2, which is dealing with transboundary cooperation. And for our questionnaire or reporting, we already had 110 countries responded. And I think it's a really high number, and it's very well indicating the importance of the transboundary cooperation. So this is what I want to say, just in a nutshell, to summarize how a country can perform transboundary cooperation on different levels, on national and regional, and also on the global level. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I'm ready to answer to your questions during the question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this very interesting presentation. I think the message we have that it's not only about theories. I presented the 7 pillars of transboundary collaboration, and I think I can see the 7 pillars implemented in this presentation. Thank you very much, Peter, for this practical example. I would like to mention again to all the people who are watching us online to send their questions during the session so that we can collect them and give them to the speakers during the Q&A later on.